It's weird looking back, because I'm looking back as an adult, trying to imagine what a child went through. But I've had lots of discussions with my brother and my other family members about this. It wasn't great. We grew up in poverty. I don't like using the word neglect, and I think that's because I don't want to put that stigma on me and my family and my mum, but it was neglect. Very poor. My dad was handy with his fish, used to beat my mum. Walked out on us when I think I was about 5 or 6. But even then he was always womanising and always out at the pub, and the pubs were more important. And my mum couldn't cope. And she took him back time after time. So there were lots of violence in my house. My dad was a handyman. My dad enjoyed violence, and he'd encourage me and my brother to be violent. So we'd be play fighting, but he'd encourage it to go back a little bit further. I always felt awkward doing that, even though my brother is only a year younger than me. I still felt like a bigger brother. And then when he finally gone, my mum couldn't cope. She was drinking daily, trying to juggle work. I can remember walking. It would be an hour walk, me, my brother, my sister in a pushchair, and my mum to a part-time job cleaning a pub. And then we'd have to clean the toilets and empty the ashtrays, and when we walked back. But she tried making that nice for us. She tried making that into a nice experience and talking to us. But from a very early age, I knew she couldn't cope even then. And she'd tell me things, oh, you're the eldest, you need to know that. And I just felt a lot of pressure. Nope. The house did have love, but it didn't love, and it was warped. My mum got brought up by by my great grandma, so she had like these Victorian standards where we couldn't talk at the table, no elbows on the table. But then, yes, the rest of our life was just chaos. Me and my brother would go out all day and we'd be out all day. I don't know if we was naughty or feral or behaved in a certain sort of way because of our upbringing, or whether that was us anyway, naughty boys, but there was no control. And we relished in that. We relished in that chaos, and we relished in not having those boundaries and that discipline. So my mum not being able to cope was quite good for us in a way. And then we moved to a different area. And it's a rough area, but it was better than where we came from. And we felt this is all brand new, life's going to change. And it didn't. It didn't. I felt stigmatised everywhere I went. I can remember at the infant school, me and my brother took an apple. We never had apples or fruit, and I can remember taking an apple, and I was proud of this apple. And I wanted other kids to see it. Look, I'm not poor, I've got an apple. We got caned because we said we nicked it from the Harvest Festival. So even then, the teachers wasn't understanding. They wouldn't believe it. I can remember the teacher saying to me, but you live in Ravensdale, Liam, and you're poor. You don't bring fruit to school. You stole that. Why are you lying? And it wasn't, I haven't. And we took it off us. And I think that was cruel. Even now I think that's cruel. We didn't have things, and they took that off me. And then when we went to the new school, I thought it had all changed. But even then, I never had a school bag. All the way through school, I always had carrier bags. So, and it was a carrier bag that ripped, inside a carrier bag that ripped, inside a carrier bag that ripped. Always losing my books were dog-eared. And rather than the teachers being understanding, there was punitive with me around that as well, and I got the cane for that. And now as an adult looking back on a child, why didn't we just say, what's going on? Here's a bag in the lost property habit, punishing me for being poor when I already felt different. And I've got a lot of hindsight, I like to think, because I talk to a lot of people I went to school with now, and I saw it totally different to what they saw. I thought I was different because I did smell, and I was dirty, and I was scruffy, and I was in hand-me-downs, and my uniform never matched, and I didn't have a sports kit, and I was on free school meals, and I was from a rough area, and my hair didn't get cut, and all these other stigma things that went with being brought up by a mum with no father around and poverty. But I thought that no one liked me. And looking back now, it's because I didn't like me, and I didn't like what I was living in. And I've talked to a few old school friends, and they've said, Liam, we just felt sorry for you and we really liked you. But I got to a stage where I was pushing people away. So rather than me not being liked, because I didn't like myself, I pushed them away to save that pain. And I don't know if it's to have some sort of control around everything as well. I can remember walking, my dad lived near my school, and he never saw us for years. And I can remember walking past his house, and the light would be on. And I try and look through the window. And I'm thinking back to like some Dickensian sort of thing where like Tiny Tim had looked through the window at the coal fire, and that was it like. My half brother and sister were there with a mum and dad, and they had warmth. They had fucking coal fire. They had warmth. We didn't even have warmth, and we were out robbing coal for our coal fire. And all I wanted, and I used to wish for it all the time, was my dad to open the door and say, "You all right, son?" And just that acknowledgement. But it was never there. It was never there. We was quite strict. My mum was quite strict, and I believe she did this because it was easier. She'd hit me and my brother, and it was really physical, cricket stumps, pans, whatever she had to handle, and we'd get beaten with it. And I think that was easier for her to do that to us because there was no other way, there was no reasoning, and she was at a tether with all her own emotions or her own feelings and trying to manage her chaotic life. It was easier just to go to outburst of violence and shut up and scream and shout and put a full stop to it. But it was just like a patch over things. Me and my brother interacted. It's weird because I talk about this a lot, and I don't mention my sister, but my sister was always there, but she was a lot younger than us, and she saw all this, and she was witness, but it's as if she was like part of the audience watching a play, and that's how I always see it when I think about my life growing up. And so she must have gone through a lot, seeing me and my brother behaving like this and not understanding why we was behaving like that, and the love, where was the love? Me and my brother showing emotions to each other, was usually done through violence. We'd have sword fights with cricket stumps, where obviously we resulted in just beating each other with cricket stumps. Then we had this dart game where you had to walk up and down the stairs, and we put a wardrobe in way, and you had to throw darts over wardrobe. And if you stopped, you had to stand at the other side of the bedroom while the other one threw 9 darts. And that was great, you know what I mean? We loved that, and it was our way of expression. I like to think it was us expressing love and sort of connection to each other. I don't know how my brother's seen it or anything like that, but for me, we were connecting on some emotional level. You know what I mean? Even now we find it difficult to handshake or hug each other and all that. It's like, oh, but there's that connection. He went to live with my dad for a bit, and he also went into care, and that broke me. I've never told him this, but it did broke me. I lost something. I lost a connection, and I felt lonely, and life did become very lonely. I've never even mentioned this at all, but I even thought about ending my life. I even started doing it and stopped, and it was just a lonely, dark place, and everything was colder. And it's weird because I didn't even like the cold now, like feeling cold, because it reminded me of these sad times and these feelings. I found solvents, and one thing I found with solvents was it took away everything. I didn't have to care no more. All the other people were same as me. They were always going through their issues. It didn't matter if I was smelly or dirty, and it took everything away, and everything was nice. It was nice. I didn't care. And I had some sort of identity and connection. And that was a big thing for me growing up, of having an identity and wanting to feel part of things. I'd always liked punk music. It's really weird. I've got a friend that's a DJ and does music journalist, and we joke that even at 7, 8-year-old and 9-year-old, we were into punk music. You know what I mean? So I'd really resonated with that. And I don't know if that's the anger that's in there, the message, or also outsiders saying this is who I am and I don't care what you think. But I think some of it is the anger as well, and the rage. All the way through my life, I can hear silent screams in my head when things get difficult. And I think that's the anger and the pain of everything, and not understanding. So after solvents, there were lots of weed. And you know what? It was fun. It was fun. We had great laughs. We all smoked weed. I can remember Mansfield Town football ground were right near where we lived, and we were scaffolding up one day, and we could see over the fence, and we had a bucket bong on the fence, and there were 6 of us. And one of our friends told us afterwards, he said it was funny. He said all we seen was 6 heads, then an head go down, a cloud of smoke, an head pop up, and we said it was like that for the 90 minutes. And we was young lads that had a laugh. It usually cost at other people's expense. We were thieves. We robbed everything. And I think that's one of the biggest things I regret through growing up at a young age. I didn't understand life of getting a job and what that meant and having things. I was just living from day to day, and I never had that role model that showed me the way, or this is what life's like, and this is your responsibilities, and this is the right thing to do. I just lived how I wanted to live. When I got to 16, I thought, fuck this. And I just rolled a sleeping bag. I mean, my friends left, and we left. We just left Mansfield. Went to live in Cornwall. I mean, I spent a number of years travelling around, hitchhiking around the country. Spent a little time with some friends that had horse and carts, living in trucks. Lived in a roundabout, St Austell roundabout. I lived there for 2 weeks, nice and dry. But and then Bath, Bristol, Brighton, and I was just moving from place to places with other lost souls. And it was a big thing in the 80s, but like, they call them New Age travellers now, but then it was a convoy. And I looked at these people just living outside the system, doing what they wanted without a care, and I thought, that's me. I need to live without a care because I cared too much. And I sort of fell into that. But then I also needed respite, and I'd come back to Mansfield and I'd catch up with my old friends. And I saw in some aspects I was ahead sometimes of that, because the clubbing scene started kicking off in like 88 around Bristol. I can remember being in a field outside Bristol with all these new ravers. And it's like, what's going off here? And trying a pill for the first time, and we were selling lots of acid, and it was like, whoa. But then it was conflicting with my world, you know what I mean? These people were all designer clothes and all this lot, and I was a punk anarchist. And in my head, it was all black and white, and I didn't know how they connected. I can remember trying heroin for the first time. Ladbroke Grove, Notting Hill, took it. We were right near the recording studio where Duran Duran used to record. Yeah, it took everything away. Honestly, that scream in my head, that noise in my head, that rage at myself, that self-loathing, it went, because now I didn't have to care. I didn't have to care. Heroin was going to take care of me, and I didn't have to care. I can be a junkie, and junkies can be as scruffy, dirty, and as chaotic as what they want, and I'll be good at it. But I didn't know that at that moment, but I knew it was my medicine, and it would take everything away. And it did. For a long period of time, it took everything away. And I don't know when it stopped being my medicine and becoming my poison, or when it stopped becoming fun. But I was aware that I was doing things I didn't want to do. I've hurt a lot of people, and I've damaged a lot of people's lives. And I will feel guilt for them for the rest of my life. I won't act on that guilt, and I'll recognise, but I'll let that dictate how I live my life today. But I knew it wasn't me. There was something not right. We'd do things, and it was causing other people pain and misery, and it wasn't right. I can remember we were one incident where somebody got hurt, and the other two guys that I was with were laughing and joking about it afterwards, and I couldn't, because I knew it was wrong, and I knew what we did was wrong, and I knew that the pain that the victim was going through was not the right price for what they'd done against us. And some of what we did was just us enjoying what we're doing, and for other people, how they saw us, and it was all bullshit, because we were just drug addicts. We're trying to get cred off of other drug addicts, and to do that we caused somebody severe physical pain, but mostly has left them damaged even to today. And it was wrong. It was wrong. And violence wasn't the answer. I was never very, very good at violence. I didn't mind fighting, but I was never very good at it. I'd rather just hit something with a bat or a lump of wood or something else. But I always felt guilty afterwards. I didn't have the heart for it. I felt sad. I felt sad for that other person. I'd rather take the pain myself. And I don't know if that's like growing up as well, how I'd rather get beaten when my brother and my sister get hit. Everything was a nightmare. I wasn't a good partner. I can remember my son being born. This is going to sound really, really corny, And it's going to sound really rehearsed and everything, but it's fucking not. When I saw him, I knew I was failing him, and I knew he would have a life of misery because who I was. I just knew. I knew. And I knew my pain would be passed on. And I left. I couldn't handle life, and I left, and I went to live in London again for a while. And then it just got even more chaos as my habit went up. And you know what? Sometimes I live the dream. Sometimes I wouldn't live in the dream. I can remember giving a taxi driver a £50 tip and 20 quid for a £2.50 taxi fare and paying 100 quid for 20 quid worth of rocks. I had loads of money, but it never lasted. It never lasted. I was just self-indulgent, and I wanted it all, and I didn't know how to control it, and I didn't know how to run things as a proper business and keep the money. It was a tool for me to hide my pain and my misery. It was just me being extravagant with everything I had and just taking it all to the limit. And it was a scream. Everything was a scream, and everything just needed to be used, and any amount in any way. I didn't like me or the world I was in. I'd never asked for help. Never asked for help. Never had a script or anything, right up through like nearly 20 years of using and everything. Never had a script, didn't want it. And then my brother used to come up, visit me in prison, and he'd bring my kids up every month to visit me. And when I come out once, he said I could stay at his house. And he said something to me, he said, "You're taking a piss, you show me no respect." And I didn't get what he was saying. And I'm thinking, well, I'm giving you 50 quid out of my gyro, and I just didn't get what he was saying. And I was going out clubbing, and I was drinking and coming back late, and he didn't drink, and I was doing bits of coke. And then he said, "Look, get out." He kicked me out. And my mum had stopped talking to me. And the kids weren't in my life, and it was getting more chaotic again. I was a prolific offender, and I had to speak to the police every week, a drug worker and probation officer, and I knew it was coming on top. I knew. I'd just done 3 back-to-back biggish sentences, and I knew it was coming on top again. And I was broken, emotionally broken and everything. And I stood there, and this police officer, I forget his name, but he'd known me since I was about 15, so he'd known me like 20 years. We stood there, and he said, "Are you all right?" And I can remember saying, "I'm tired," and crying. And he went, "You what?" I said, "I'm tired." And I can still remember it to this day, and I can still feel that pain. And I was tired. So I don't know when the problem was a problem. And I don't know if I masked it and hid it behind all the drugs, but I think it had built up and built up and built up. And it was there. And I don't know why it was this police officer, but when he asked me, and I said, "I'm tired." And he said, "What can I do, or how can I help?" I forget his exact words. And I said, "I need help. I need to go to rehab." And I can remember having a distant conversation with somebody years ago about rehab. And they mentioned a specific rehab. And that had always stuck to my head as being as a miracle get out clause of life and everything. And he said, "It's not easy to do this, Liam." And he said, "Look, I'm just going to have a word with the probation and the drug workers." We're all based in the same building for prolific offenders at the time. And he was gone about half an hour. And I can remember thinking, what the fuck? I've just asked for help and you've just left me. What's happening? And they all came in together. We said, "Right, Liam, this isn't an easy process, but we've got you a day placement in 6 weeks' time. Are you willing to go?" The moment had passed then, and I thought, right, they need to just hear what I'm going to say. I went, "Yeah, of course I am." Already in my head, I'm thinking, haha, I fooled these. I can carry on living my life I wanted to live. But I knew it wasn't real. I knew it wasn't real. I knew I was lying to myself then. So I went to my day placement. My probation officer took me down there. She didn't even need to take me on my day placement. I was going to say, yes, it's great. Anyway, I lied. He asked me how much I was using. I said, about £5 worth a day. I was still bang at it. And they said, "So you okay coming in and doing a detox with no medication?" "Yeah, it'll be easy." And then we said, "When can you come?" I mean, they mentioned it was a Thursday. They said, "Can you come on this Thursday?" I went, "Oh, I can't come that day. I get paid that day. Can I come the Friday?" And we went, "Will you come? Because it's Friday." I went, "Yeah, of course I'll come." And 2 police officers were bringing me down on the Friday. and I had the phone number. And I can remember phoning them off my mum's landline day before. I said, I'm not going. I've changed my mind. I don't need to go. You know what I mean? You don't have to pick me up or anything, put phone down. But next morning at 7 o'clock, they banged on the door and said, we're here to take you. I said, but I told you I'm not going. He said, get in the car. You're going now. And on the way down, they did make my life a bit difficult, a lot difficult. Just telling me about all the pain I'd caused people, the misery I'd caused wider society. And also saying if I came back, that I was going away, and they'd make it their mission to make sure I weren't on the streets. As soon as they saw me in Mansfield, they would pick me up, and they'd make sure everybody else would pick me up. So it'd waste time coming back and drop me off. It was horrible. I didn't sleep. Flipping heck. 20 odd days not sleeping properly. Getting up at the middle of the night, red hot, sweating, cold baths. I can remember it all. But I can remember not leaving, and I can remember I'm not going to leave. And I thought, and I treated that, when I got there, I treated that same as I treated my drug use and everything else. I gave it my all. And I thought, I'm giving this my everything. I've given everything to heroin. I've given everything to crime. I'm going to give everything to this. This is it. I've got to do this. And I did, and I just jumped in, both feet. I got a couple of postcards and Christmas cards off the same two coppers, asking if I was doing well, if I was still there, and remember not to come back to Mansfield. And that was a significant point in my changing as well. It was like, flipping heck. You know what I mean? I had an idea of what I thought these two police officers were like that brought me down. These postcodes and this Christmas card said something completely different, and I started actually challenging how I saw the world and who I was, and they were right and I was wrong. And so I was in treatment 22 months. People still take the mickey out of me now of how staunch I was in there. A lot of people thought it was fake. A lot of people thought it was false, but I knew I had to live my life a certain sort of way. And I gave up everything. Smoking, cigarettes, the lot, it all went. And I had to give it my all, and I had to be completely honest, and I had to be completely broken. And you know what? And so I can remember talking about some deep-rooted things that happened that were traumatic in my childhood. And I can remember thinking, if I mention this, it's out, and these people know, and they can use that against me. And I can remember thinking, what's it matter? Because if they're going to do the same as me, it won't matter. It'll be done. And if they are going to use it as a weapon against me, it's not going to matter, because I'm in a different world to them, and I've been moving on from that. So I just started being brave, and I can remember sat there, and it was really weird, and people were talking, and there were lots of noise and laughing and joking, and I thought I would never smile again. I thought I would never ever smile again. I'd gone to places in my head that were dark, and I thought I could never smile again. And after a couple of weeks of trusting people and the process and building relationships, I started smiling again, and I could smile and I could laugh. I still didn't understand totally what it was, but I had some understanding around it. I disempowered the feelings, and I felt a bit lighter, and I felt a bit more likeable. And then I was able to move on and do other things. And I weren't bothered what people thought about me. I'd never been bothered what people thought about me. I thought, but I knew I had. I'd always been bothered what people thought about me. And I was my own worst critic, and my own worst enemy. But now I really didn't give a shit what people thought about me. I was being me. I was being honest. And there's a word. And I was speaking to my son about this word the other month, and he uses it quite a lot now, integrity. I stood by my integrity. And do you know what? If I made a mistake or I got something wrong, with integrity, I can say, do you know what? I got that wrong. And people would understand, because they know I'm coming from a right place. And also with integrity, I can do right every day. And if I live by that, things will be okay. And things can go wrong, and it's not the end of the world. But without that, I've just got deception and lies and falsehoods. And it was about me being honest and transparent and being open. I think the change was the process, and like drip, 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 drip. And then at the end of it, I had a bucket that was full. So it's like watching a clock. You don't see the minute hand move But 15 minutes later, my hands moved. So I think the change was moving slowly. But it was about, I think, do you know what? The biggest thing, my sheer bloody mindedness and stubbornness of I won't be broken. I was already broken, and I can be really stubborn. I can still be stubborn now. And I thought, this isn't going to break me. I'm going to do this. And it was just about giving everything 100%, being honest and open, owning who I was, what I'd done, not shying away from things, being brave, going places that were dark, that I didn't want to, that I'd always hidden. I can remember we used to have a diary and we used to write things down. And I used to think the diary was to write things down so you didn't forget it, but it was so you remembered it. And I could see it, I could see the words, and I could show the people, and I could get their interpretation. Because my interpretation might not be right of how I saw things, and I could get a bigger 360 view. And I can remember one day I couldn't write something down. I couldn't write it down, and I didn't know what it was. And this is going to sound all made up. I had to hold my hand to the paper. I had to literally physically hold my hand to the paper. And once I wrote it down, I knew those words were down, and I shown it to somebody, and I knew those words was out. And once those words was out, there was no coming back. I had opened something that I couldn't shut. And the only way to shut it was to deal with it or run away. And if I ran away, I wasn't going to live. And this is all me reflecting back, but I know that that's what was going off in my brain at the time. It was being brave and jumping in both feet. And it was hard. But also what I found helped me was helping others, being there for others, compassion, crying, holding people. I've got a friend, her mum used to write to her every week about the allotment. And we used to sit there on a Sunday afternoon and we used to read the letters together. And I just felt part of something. I felt like somebody welcomed me into the world with non-judgment. I'm actually friends with my friend's mum now. And I send her messages every now and again. She's less mobile now, but I talk to her about the garden that she has. And my friend still sends me, 20 years later, pictures of the allotment. I'm in the garden, and we talk about that. So it was being a friend for the people, but a proper friend. There were no agenda. There were no like, you can give me this. All it was friends. It was just human beings helping people. I've not seen that person now since I was married, but I'm still the good friends. And one of I call him my best friend, but I got close to him here. Completely different background, completely different drugs of choice. Not seen him in a number of years. Still my best friend. Still, every day I'm grateful for that person. And they message me every now and again. It's usually like celebration time, birthday, and thanks me. And at one time I couldn't take that, but I'm grateful that he's doing that because he's reminding me that I am a good person, and because I know I couldn't survive without him and he couldn't survive without me, and what that meant to us. And it was about that connection with other people and being allowed to be who I was and being a good person. Some of the people I didn't like, some of the people I didn't get on with, but do you know what? I will still help that person because that person will help me. And we don't have to be best friends to help people. I don't have to like somebody to help them. They don't have to like me to help me. And it's about being that human being and being a human being and being nice. And it was 22 months, and then I thought, that's it. I've done rehab. I can remember I had tattoos on my face. And I can remember the first job, it was like a little scarf shop, jewellery shop. And I've got him there, and I did it as a joke. I handed my CV in as a joke. My CV was made up. I never had a job in my life. Then I got a phone call. Well, sorry, the rehab got a phone call on the rehab phone. And, oh yeah, well, Liam's not around at the minute. I'll just take a message. And I went in. She went, oh, can you manage my shop for me? And it wasn't a big shop. It was like a little private accessorise. And it was a woman, and it was her own business. She's quite wealthy, and it was silk scarves, jewellery. And I loved it. I loved putting money in my safe. I loved where she's saying, this is really good, Liam. You know what I mean? We're making money and you're doing this and you're managing it really well. And then I can remember one day she had a conversation with me. She went, Liam, we've got shoplifters. And you know what? I'd spot some of the shoplifters coming in. And what I used to do, we used to be broken bits of jewellery and half-used tester bottles. And I'd say, look, don't rob anything from here. I know what, here, take them and just go. And she went, we've got shoplifters, Liam. And I said, well, I think I'd spot them. And she went, do you know what? You're just like my husband, because you've never been from that world. You don't understand it. She said, I've been doing shopkeeping for a long time. And she just couldn't. And I went, oh, yeah, you're right. I am pretty innocent. That was a special moment. I can remember going home on the bus in a shirt and trousers, because she made me wear shirt and trousers, thinking, she didn't know who I was. And it was, she didn't know who I was. Not who I am. She didn't know who I was. And she looked at me and saw Liam that ran her shop, that put the money in the till, that did the orders, that paid the wages, that gave her a rundown every day of what money she was making and what she needed to buy. She didn't see who I was, she saw who I am. And that was a massive change for me. And then an old associate, he worked for a drug agency in Oxford, and he said, oh, Liam, there's a job going as a trainee. Why don't you go for it? And I went, oh. I said, where is it? He said, oh, it's in Banbury. Can you get to Banbury? I went, oh, yeah, a couple of bus rides. I said, yeah, of course I can. So I applied for it, and I had the interview, and I got the job. And then I'm thinking, wow, I've got to get to Banbury every day. It's going to be like a couple hours bus ride to get there, but I'm going to do this. Then I got a phone call and saying, oh, we've had a look at the staffing and all that lot. We work in Oxford. Would that be better for you? We think you'll be best placed there. I went, yes, of course. And then I went back to the shop and I told the woman about who I was and what I'd done and how I'd lived my life. And she went, you're lying. I went, no, why would I come out with that lie? And she just looked at me and she went, oh, I just see people on the streets that are drug addicts live in doorways, and I just think they're like that forever until we die. And I went, no, people can change. And she went, oh. And I used to get random calls off her. Oh, Liam, we've got no staffing this weekend. Do you fancy coming down for doing a couple of hours? And it was just that trust she put in me. The shop keys, the safe, the code for the safe, the alarm, everything. It changed who I saw, who I was. And I wrote a letter to a friend, and he wrote me back and he says, oh, Liam, the shopkeeper. He did it in a joking way, but it meant something to me, because I wasn't Liam the drug addict. I wasn't Liam the heroin addict. Liam, the person that hurt other people. It was Liam the shopkeeper. It was a new title. It was a new name. It was a new beginning. And I thought, yeah. And then my life started changing, man. And somebody gave me some advice. He said, Liam, keep learning, keep reading, keep moving forward, keep doing what you're doing. And I've just stuck at that, and I've done everything and thrown myself into everything I do to get to where I am. I think one of the biggest ones, but one of the hardest ones, and I've struggled with this, is liking me, and that I can be likeable, and I can be loved, and I am worthwhile. And somebody said something to me in the Leeds community when I was there in treatment, and he said, do you ever look at yourself in the mirror? And I went, yeah, when I have a shave. I went, no, but do you look? And I realised that when I was shaving, I wasn't looking at myself. It was like I was just shaving really fast, but not looking at myself. So then I started doing something. I started looking at me. Started looking in my eyes and looking at my faces and my features and who I was, and going deeper into myself. And what I found out myself, I think I've always been the person I am now. I think I'm becoming the person I should have been, or I wanted to be, or I needed to be. But I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm understanding. But I've still got the broken bits about me, and I've got to realise that, but I'm still broken a bit, and some of the bad things I don't like about me will come out. But that's usually when I'm not looking after myself. I'm quite lucky with my wife. She'll point it out to me and say, Liam, are you okay? This is how you're behaving. And I can go away. And one of the biggest things I've learned is to be able to look at myself and say, I'm the problem. You know what I mean? Before, I'd dig my heels in and I'd argue and argue and argue. Even when I start realising I was wrong, I'd get back into an argument, it'd be past that. But now I'm able to say, you know what, I'm a problem, and come down and say, I'm sorry. I have difficulty understanding other people not understanding that I'm sorry and not wanting to move on as fast as I'm doing. But that's where I'm still learning every day. But people will deal with what they need to deal with, and I'm not in control of that. and they've got to take their time in doing that. But I'll be driving and my wife will say to me, what are you working at now? And I say, what do you mean? She'll say, you're doing certain things with your fingers and your lips are moving. Because I'm going over things in my head about who I am and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I've got friends that say they're in recovery. So I don't get that. I don't understand that. Are they still recovering then? If they're in recovery, are they still recovering? Have I moved on from that? And I just don't get it. All I know is I had part in my life where it was chaos and it was detrimental and that was the drugs. And before that, it was chaos. But then I'm still here. I'm still me. You know, and so I'm going right back to when I was a kid and knowing things were wrong. And I'm taking that. I know what right and wrong is, and I live by right and wrong. I'm honest. If I say something, I'm not lying. It's integrity. And if I get it something wrong, I can hold my hands up. And I suppose I'm innocent as well. If I don't understand something, I don't mind saying, I don't understand that. It's one of my biggest moments. I thought I was weird. I thought I'd done all the drugs and I've stopped all the drugs and I thought it was weird and I didn't know what was wrong with me, why I was behaving a certain sort of way. And I broke down at work. My manager at the time, what an amazing person, how she helped me. And it was a big meltdown. And I walked back in the room and they looked at me and went, oh, I think we need a little talk, don't we? And we went in and she just sat there and I was allowed to break down. And I cried. And they asked me the right questions. And I was able to talk about things I'd never talked about because I thought because I'd done rehab, I thought I was cured. But I was hiding all these thoughts in my head about what was going on. And she went, I think you need some help, Liam. And I went, what do you mean? She went, I think you need some mental health help. So I started engaging with mental health services. I got a diagnosis in the end of obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and they said there's other personality disorders in Liam, but this one's shining out. And once I started looking into that, it started making more sense about why I behave a certain sort of way. See, I got really deep with it. I don't know if that came about because of my trauma growing up or the drugs or accumulation. But what I knew is I had to accept that how it was. And once I found that out, I could talk to my wife about it a bit more and it made sense to her of why I behaved sort of way. I wasn't being nasty and horrible and it wasn't her fault. Then she was more aware of my patterns of how I behaved then, but she needed to have an intervention with me and tell me. So I'm able to do that now. So I'm able to take people's advice on and listen to them and not feel like I'm being attacked. I'm able to ask for help. I want that help. If I'm at work, in my work, if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask. Because what I don't want is 6 months down the line not knowing and me being my problem. And that comes back to integrity as well. I've got to be pure with what I do. I've got to be true and I've got to be honest. And with honesty, it's not just about not lying. It's got to be that true. And this is who I am. And this is what you're getting. And you know what? If you don't like it, I understand. I can be really difficult not to like. And I'm not going to hold that against you because I know I'm a person that I really will like. But if you do like me and you're my friend, you're my friend. My wife's gone on holiday. She's gone on holiday with her friends. They go once a year. And I had Saturday, Sunday, yesterday and today, and I've got a couple more days. I don't feel lonely. Growing up, I always felt lonely. I felt lost, unloved, unwanted, and I don't feel that no more. I don't feel I can be quite happy on my own, getting my dogs on, going out for a walk for 2-3 hours with the dogs, trying to work out what the world is, just seeing all the beauty of the world, thinking, bloody hell, what is this? What does this mean? But then enjoying it. So I've got that. I don't feel lonely no more. So I'm comfortable with me. This is who I am. If you don't like me, I understand. If you do like me, well, you've got a great friend. And just being comfortable, being able to say no, not being forced to do things, not going places I don't want to go, and being able to have the courage to say, I'm not going because of this, or I can't come because this is how I feel. And my friends understanding. So my friends are them people as well, because they understand that. And they'll say, well, if you don't feel comfortable, don't come. And not judging me and not being judgmental. all these things, all those pure things keep me going. And do you know what? I'm not no angel, and I will get things wrong, and I will make mistakes, but it's be able to come back and say, I am sorry. You know what I mean? Not justifying it in any way and saying, oh, it's because of this, this and this, and it's because my dad beat me with a stick when I was 7. It's like, no, I was a dickhead. I'm sorry, I took my eye off the ball. And being honest, saying this is when I think it started going wrong for me. I started feeling like this a few weeks ago, and this wasn't right. And then my wife and my friends saying, we know, we noticed, why didn't you tell us? I'm feeling brave enough to be able to do that now and not caring. And I don't know if that's come with age as well. So I don't know if it's just me being through treatment and life. I don't know if it's come with wisdom of age, of not caring and thinking this is who I am. But I still like the shock of it all. I met a woman this morning walking my dog. I've not seen her in a long time. She's in her 80s. And we're walking my dogs once. We used to walk them over lunchtime in lockdown. And she was on about crime and all that lot. And I started talking about who I was. And she went, never, Liam, never. And I enjoyed that shock that she didn't know that used to be me. So the lessons I've learned is being me, being an open book, and people could take me or leave me. I'm just comfortable being me, not being lonely, being happy, honest. It's going to sound really corny. I needed love. I needed to know what love was, feel that love, and warmth. I needed to feel warm. I needed to be understood, and I needed time and somebody to invest that time in me and ask me why. What's happening for you? Why are you sad? What can we do? Just so I felt acknowledged. And I think if I had that, things could have been different. Things could have been different. I spoke about when I did some time in prison, and I was very disruptive in prison. I enjoyed the structure and the discipline, and it was easy to do, but I enjoyed the chaos as well. I enjoyed kicking off, because they couldn't take nothing off me, because I had nothing, and they didn't care about me. And then a prison officer, he don't know how important what he said to me. And he said, why are you doing this to you? And I was stopped in my tracks. I didn't know what he meant. I always thought I was doing it to the world. And then he asked me again, he said, why? I don't understand why you're doing this to you. And that was a big turning point. Somebody had asked me why I was doing this to me. Somebody took the time out to think about me and wanted to understand why I was behaving a certain sort of way and why I was a certain sort of way. So I feel that's what I needed. I needed an understanding voice, some love, some care, and some understanding. And I think if I had that, it would have been all completely different. And I think I would have been different. Because what I found is when, through my life, where people have took that time out and asked me questions and deep, meaningful, I will talk, I will respond, I will reflect, and I will look at me. And I can remember always feeling lost at school from a very young age, thinking, why are you hitting me when you should be holding me? And I just didn't get it. Why are you beating somebody that gets beaten at home? Why are you being abusive to somebody that gets abused at home? Why are you making me feel worse than what I already feel? Why don't you show me some love? It's a bigger driver. Kindness is a bigger driver than hate. And I think things are changing now in the world where it's like that, where kindness does change and punitive doesn't. Punitive's a punishment. Why are you punishing people? Why don't you ask them? Show them the love. And it's harder, because I've always been angry in my life. I find it harder to argue with love. If you come back at me with anger, I can be angry all day long, and I can be angrier than you. But you show me some love, and that disarms me, and I'm broken, and I'm broke down, and I can only show love and understanding back. Do you know what? I'd love to say it's not as hectic as what it was. It's just as hectic, but it's a different sort of hectic. Life's good. So I went from working for the drug agency and really enjoyed helping other people. And it's going to sound stereotypical. Oh, an ex-user helping other users, and I use my experience and all that lot. But it wasn't. It was about going back to the love. It was that if we don't love and help these people who are, and I wanted to help. And do you know what? And I think there were some selfish reasons, and I think what I'm doing today is still selfish, some of it. I think there's that atonement in how I do, trying to make things better, trying to outweigh on the balance scales of the hate and the nastiness to the love and the kindness. And it's winning, and it is winning. I'm in a great place today. I'm in a great place. I've got a relationship with my son and his sisters. I went out for a 4-hour walk with my son a couple of days ago, and we're talking about really meaningful things, stuff that I should have talked about years ago. And he was asking me, oh, why did you call me this name? What other names was there? Conversation we should have had years ago, but we're able to have them conversations and walk and listen and interact with each other and feel that love and that respect. My mum, I talk to her every Wednesday. Every Wednesday I phone her up for an hour, and maybe a couple more times a week I phone her up, and we have the same conversations, that we can laugh and we joke, and it's as if none of the badness happened. We are there and we love each other, and it's my mum and I'm her son, and we're having these relationships and we're having these conversations with no hidden agenda. My brother, I try and visit him whenever I go to Nottinghamshire and have conversations with him about recovery and recovered and who we are and whatever, and just have chats and just be around each other and associate with each other. And we are very similar but different as well. And my sister, I try and phone her when I can and when I remember. And she lives in Cornwall, so I always go and visit her every year. But I just like to be meaningful in people's lives and meaningful to me. I think one of my biggest moments was marrying and being loved. And flipping heck. And knowing that a certain person in my life is the be all and end all, and without them I'd be incomplete. And just having that love and that unconditional love, and seeing it from their perspective. They had a different upbringing to me, lifestyle, and they understand love a different way to me, and learning from them and being vulnerable and sharing things and being part of things. And then there's my work and enjoying the work that I do. I manage a team that looks after a supported housing project and a housing first project, and that's meaningful to me, of helping other people as well get that accommodation and using my knowledge. And sometimes I come back from work thinking, wow, have I just done this today? This is who I am. This is what I've done. And you know what? I can look at it negatively and think, well, Liam, if you did all this years ago, just imagine what you'd have now. But you know what? If I did all that years ago, I wouldn't be who I am now. And if I wasn't who I am now, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So I have to get that reality of like, this is where I am. This is what I've got. This is what I achieved. And it's just having random conversations and opportunities. I got asked by a psychologist a couple of weeks ago, would I help them teach at Oxford University, trainee psychologists? And I thought, you're all right. And I had a meeting yesterday with two psychologists planning what we're going to do on the day and why it works. And do you know what? I didn't feel inferior. And they welcomed my knowledge. And they wasn't looking at junkie Liam. They wasn't looking at homeless Liam. They wasn't looking at broken child Liam. They was looking at professional Liam. What do you think? How would this work? How does this help? And I was allowed to explore that. And do you know what? I was on a level with them. It was adult. Where I've always felt like child adult. I was adult. I do stuff for police training, to Police Now and other organisations like that, where I use my experience. But it's not just me telling a life story, it's how I think trauma works and how they can work better looking at people's trauma. So where am I now? I'm in a great place. I'm in a great place where I'm trusted, I'm liked. I can walk out on the streets, and I'm Liam Moore walking with dogs. I'm that guy that's on the Ridgeway walking his terriers that are pretty well behaved, to say they're terriers. Not like, oh, look at that shady guy there. Is he going to break into our car? Is he going to rob us? I'm invisible. I'm invisible but visible. I'm me. And I'm allowed to be me. And I enjoy being me. Sometimes it's hard being me. But I suppose everybody feels like that. I suppose everybody's got that where they don't like themselves sometimes. And usually when it's times like that, it's usually I'm the problem. And I've created that. So where am I now? I took everything that's happened to me in my life, and I remember it. I don't dwell on it, and I don't use it as a stick. I remember it, and I use that as a tool to drive me forward. I am the sum of my past. I am the sum of my experiences, but I'm not that person. And I've had conversation with people in the past that haven't liked me. And I've had to be brave in the conversation and say, look, you're talking to the person you thought I was. But even back then, I wasn't that person I thought I was and you thought I was. This is who I am now. And if you still don't like me, you still don't like me. But this is who I am now. And not everybody's going to be forgiving and understanding. But that's not their problem. It's not my problem. It's how it is. So all I can be is me, with integrity, with honesty and love, caring and understanding, and not forgetting that, not forgetting where I've come from. And where do I want to go in the future? Do you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I just want to enjoy having holidays, spending time with my wife, spending time with my family and loved ones, spending time with my dogs and my friends. And I'll be wherever I'm going to be, because it's where I'm meant to be. I've got through this far without dying or being killed or anything. So it's all a blessing. I'm going to get to wherever I need to go. Do we all know where we're going or heading? We might have some idea and some trajectory of where we like to be, but we all land where we land.